Welcome to The Freight Break with your host, Dan Lindsey, the podcast that cuts through the noise of the trucking industry. We're talking real conversations, real relationships, and real insight that keep the wheels turning.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Freight Break, the flagship podcast of the Broker Carrier Summit and the BCS Freight Network. I am your host, Dan Lindsey. We have a fantastic show for you today. I'm going to be talking with my good friend Danielle Spinelli, aka the Fraud Girl, talking about fraud prevention tactics and techniques, how to identify scumbags, scammers, and double brokers in the industry. We're also going to be having an episode of Barrel and Burn today. And before we do that, let's kick it over to our sponsors, TIE Software. TIE TMS, workflows, automation, and integrations built for real freight broker needs. Whether you handle LTL or FTL, TIE delivers data-driven quoting and decision-making so you can win more opportunities and grow faster. Automate tedious tasks, manage carriers, and integrate your tools. No more jumping between apps. Empower your team with the right TMS to boost productivity and win more loads every day. Ready to see TIE in action? Visit tiesoftware.com to schedule your live demo. Also, a quick reminder, if you have not yet signed up for the next Broker Carrier Summit, we are going to be in Orlando, October 28th to the 30th. This is an event you will not want to miss. It is quickly becoming the best, most profitable, most valuable week in freight. So if you have not signed up yet, go to our website, www.brokercarriersummit.com or bcsfreightnetwork.com and sign up today. All right, everyone, welcome back to Barrel and Burn, the segment where I review some of my favorite whiskeys, scotches, and bourbons over the years, as well as some of the cigars that have prompted some of the most valuable, meaningful, and regrettable conversations in my entire life. So, today we're going to be reviewing the Whistle Pig Small Batch Rye 10-year. Whistle Pig is a good bottle. It's robust. This one in particular, I think, is 100 proof, aged in Vermont. It is bold. It is spicy. So, in essence, it's me. You got some caramel in here, a little bit of citrus, little orangey flavors on the nose. The palate, honestly, when you drink this, it's very full bodied. There's some spiciness to it as well. You can taste some pepper, some clove, but it's got a good finish. It's got a smooth, almost vanilla, minty finish at the end. This is when you're going to want to sip. You're going to want to sip it slowly and just really appreciate and take in the finish over the hour or so that you're going to be enjoying this bottle. It's nice in cocktails. However, I would not put this in a cocktail because a full bottle, as you can see, this is not a full bottle, but a full bottle will set you back about $150. It's definitely one of the better ryes that I've ever had, but it also will set you back more than your typical Woodford or anything else. Cheers. That's why they call it Whistle Pig. Yeah, that's strong. That's real strong. It's almost as if Strong Solo Sergei sings you a jazz ballad. Strong yet mellow. It finishes well. It's very good. Cheers. So when it comes to giving the Whistle Pig a grade, again, this is one of the more expensive everyday bottles you're going to be drinking. So on a price to value ratio, it is a very good rye. Again, it's one of the best ryes I've had. Let's put it around a 3 on price. Taste and flavor profile, though, solid 7 out of 10. So 7 on taste and flavor, 3 on price. The cigar for the day is the Oliva Series V. Now, Oliva, I love Olivas. The Oliva V and the Oliva G series were my first 2 cigars that I ever smoked. And for actually, I would say for about a year and a half, they were all I smoked because they were very good. They're very cost effective. This particular one will last me personally about an hour and a half. Again, I'm a slow smoker. I kind of just sit and let it burn slowly and appreciate it. But yeah, very, very cost effective. Nicaraguan, obviously, I believe is a powerhouse in the cigar world. So this one in particular has a Habano sun-grown wrapper. It's a little lighter to the nose. You get kind of leathery and coffee notes. This is good with a nice, this is going to sound a little childish, but this paired with a nice hot chocolate in the wintertime is money, dude. It's fantastic. This, sit on your back porch in the snow with this and a spiked hot chocolate with with some of your Whistle Pig rye, you're going to have a good night. You may not remember your night, but you will have a good night. Oliva, Serie V, this one will cost you about $10 to $12 per stick, or you can buy a box of them for like $100. So, yeah, very good. All right, welcome to this segment of Breaking It Down. And today we have the privilege of talking with a good friend of mine, industry veteran and fraud girl. You may know her as Fraud Girl, Danielle Spinelli. Danielle, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, great to always talk with you. How is your summer shaping up so far?
Summer has been great. I've had no conferences for like a month, so that's weird for me. I'm usually always on the go, so it's been weird being home, but kids have been keeping me busy. My big two they do basketball. My oldest son does basketball. My daughter does basketball and softball, so she's got summer. And then my youngest is just driving me crazy because I work from home and he comes in here every 5 seconds. So
that happens. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few people who I know that travel more than me, and you are definitely one of them. So good. It's good that you have some downtime at home.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, so everybody who knows you from My Carrier Portal, now a part of the Descartes ecosystem. But talk to me about how Fraud Girl came about. Because I was in the dark on this until I saw people walking around with Fraud Girl t-shirts on at the BCS in April. So where did that come from?
I know, it's really funny. I don't know how it originally originated. I just started hearing, like, people were messaging me on LinkedIn, be like, "Hey, Fraud Girl, I have a question about this." And I'm like, okay, I'll just roll with it. Like, that's cool. And then I was on Nate Johnson's podcast at Matt's, and he was like, or we were just talking, and I was like, yeah, it's so funny because people keep calling me Fraud Girl. And he's like, oh, that's so cool. You should get a shirt that says that. I'm like, oh, yeah, haha, so funny. And then here he comes at Broker Care Summit, whips out, like, he's like, hey, I have a present for you. He whips out the hat. And I'm like, FG, fun girl? What does this mean? He's like, no, Fraud Girl. And I'm like, what? Then he brings out the shirt. And I was just like that was the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. So that was super special. And then now I'm a superhero, apparently.
Yes. Anybody who can fight fraud in the freight world deserves superhero status in my book, even for trying.
Right. I'm trying. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. So one of the things that obviously fraud prevention, identity theft, and all these different things, cargo theft, have been major issues in the industry, not just over the last 4 years, but for a very, very long time, but specifically during and post COVID. So talk to us about how platforms like My Carrier Portal and how you individually and your team are taking steps to prevent fraud, minimize the damage, and how extensive is the fraud problem in the industry today?
The extent of fraud is, it's a huge market. I think they said like $500 million is what they're projecting with losses. I will say, as far as like all the carriers out there, it seems to be like a 1% actual amount of carriers, but they just bombard everybody and they hit multiple people multiple times. So it's not like there's an enormous amount of bad guys out there. It is the same bad guys doing the same things over and over again. Is kind of what we're seeing. So in one hand, that's great because it's kind of easier to detect them. On the other hand, they're getting craftier because they're sharpening their knives and getting more skilled at things. So on the fraud prevention side, we're having to basically constantly come up with new innovative ideas. I have a development meeting weekly. Really like twice a week, going over stories that I've heard, because luckily I have enough of a network on LinkedIn where people are messaging me like, hey, this happened to me, either my customers or not, telling me what's going on, even on a driver carrier level. They're saying, hey, this is what happened to me fraud wise. So I'm able to kind of take all that information and then kind of take it into, okay, how can we, if I dissect this problem that happened, how can we take this and what if we added this? Would that have prevented it? Possibly. And then kind of making it where, because you want that prevention, but you also don't want to bottleneck yourself where you're not working with carriers. Because like I said, it is a 1% thing. So the 99% that are good, like, you don't want to not work with them. So there's a fine line. And that's kind of the biggest reason why My Care Portal's had to really develop a lot of new features, especially in the past couple of years. So really having to do that, but also working with our customers to say like, hey, we're wanting to come out with this, test this out. Is this going to affect your network? Are you going to have, I was a broker for 8 years. Like, I get, this is like a super tough load. It's got multiple stops. Like I'm Hail Marrying this. Like, I got to find somebody. I'm desperate. So I've been there, and I don't want to have a system that's going to prevent me. Like, I finally found somebody, and I'm willing to roll the dice. Like, I think there's that, it's a mix, right? Because brokers like to gamble. So that's where I think My Care Portal really does well at, is you're still able to use your flow, but then also be protected.
So what's the breakdown in the industry? So I know that the fraud in general, and I assume that includes cargo theft. It includes cargo theft, double brokering, identity theft, wire fraud. How does that break down?
So, and really cargo theft is the worst thing. I mean, that's like where you get hit the hardest. Because double brokering, honestly, that's always been a thing. I think in the past it's been where like the freight's delivered. And so the broker's like, well, unless if you're double paying, then you get pissed, but that's like a couple $1,000s maybe at most.
Right.
So really you're like, okay, I mean, that happened to me. Obviously it's illegal. It's bad. Like, I'm not saying it's not, but I think because we were so lenient on stuff like that, that's kind of how they learned all of our tips and tricks on things, on how they can make that worse. So then now it's being double brokered and then disappearing, and you have no idea. You don't even know who really has the shipment. So that's the worst part of it. And then I think with the whole identity theft, because really what we're seeing is there's some points even where it's not even a real shipper, it's not even a real carrier. Like, everything is fake all the way around. And so then a broker is thinking, well, they're going to get paid from this fake shipper, and paying this fake carrier. And it's insane how how like every aspect of logistics they've really infiltrated. So everybody's got to be really careful.
Yeah, well, that's interesting with the shipper fraud. Now, I saw an article about that a couple of weeks ago, talking about how there was a fake shippers being created, and brokers were not getting paid. That actually happened to me in 2022. Before that was even a widely known scheme. There was a company that got set up with one of our brokers when I was running linkage. They were based in, I think it was Tampa, Florida. And they had all kinds of signage. They had a picture of a warehouse with their logo. They had some trucks, and they had 15 people that they listed on their points of contact. And the broker was like, "Oh, this is legit." And so we did, basic checks on them, and somehow it slipped through the cracks. But yeah, they never ended up paying us, and we lost quite a bit on that one. But that's it almost seems too like whenever something comes out, or the industry comes out with a new piece of technology or a new process or a new system, the ones who are engaging in fraudulent activity always find a way around it. So it's almost like I appreciate the fact that companies are investing their time and their resources into preventing fraud. One of the questions that I get a lot from carriers is the new technology preventing fraud, or is it only accelerating the creativity of the fraudsters?
Yeah.
Do you want to weigh in on that at all, or?
I agree. I do think the creativity is getting way, like they're going just as fast as they're going faster really than we are. So, and to be frank, like a lot of the platforms that are out, there's a lot of new platforms that are out as far as vetting that started like 2020, 2021. And then ever since then, that's whenever it's been booming. So, I mean, it's like almost conspiracy theory-ish. Just like, how did this even happen like that? But I do think it was almost like nature of the game where in 2020, people were so desperate for money. So many people were out of work that I think that's whenever if you had a logistics background, they were like, hey, I know all these holes in this. Let's take over. So really, that's how I think it actually started. But I do think tech's great. I think it is there to enhance your job. I don't think it's there to replace jobs. I don't think it's there to take away the human element of even like just hearing someone's voice or a conversation on email. I mean, I saw an email the other day somebody sent me where it was like, "I'll take it." That was all they wrote. It's like, that's sketch. That's super sketch. Like nobody just takes a load. It has does not care about anything. Like that's a red flag. So even like stuff like that, like in one thing with like an AI agent or something and which is kind of scary to me about the whole AI thing coming up next is like that. I'll take it as an AI rep. You're like, okay, I'll send you the rate sheet. But really, like, as a person, you're like, that is sketch. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's sketchy as hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pro tip, brokers: if the carrier's not negotiating the rate, you're not talking to a real carrier. And if you are talking to a real carrier, don't give that person your business. If they're not going to fight for their rate, don't work with them.
Or if they don't fight for it, but they're not asking any details about the load, no. Like,
right.
Yeah, like
that's one of the things too. A lot of the things or a lot of the steps rather that you can take to prevent fraud, honestly, don't require a platform. They just require people doing due diligence. I remember you and I come from the same cloth when it comes to where we came up in brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
The processes that we had and the systems that we had in place were fantastic, but so was the training that we received when it came to actually being able to sniff things out. Like, oh, somebody's not asking this question. They're not where they say they are. The name doesn't match up with, the accent, whatever it might be.
Right.
A lot of it is just preventing fraud. Can be boiled down in a lot of ways, just paying closer attention as an individual. And I don't think AI is coming to save anybody when it comes to that. Whenever we talk to tech companies on the show and at the summit, one of the things we always ask them is, what is the role of AI? And you already alluded to it. I think you're correct that AI and technology is not meant to replace people, but it's meant to augment your role. One of the things we saw in 2020 was systems began to replace relationships. And I wonder if that's where this really got started.
Yeah. Well, even in 2020, so I went remote. Okay, so backing it up, I guess. So I was a broker for 8 years, the first 5 of which everything was manual. I was manually checking everything. I was calling like insurance. I mean, it would take me like an hour to vet a carrier. I was doing high value freight. So I mean, I had to do a bunch of things, and I had this whole checklist, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and like, oh my God, I think I forgot to do this one thing. So my ability to cover loads quickly was like, I couldn't. Like I had to take all these extra things. So that's where I think AI and tech comes into play, is like it shortened my ability. Like whenever we switched to like MCP, it shortened my whole process. Like it took it down to like seconds, knowing if I could work with them or not on all these different levels. So then I could focus on selling, and then I can focus on the human element of vetting, of talking to them, this and that. But then, like you said, in 2020, whenever basically everybody got sent home, I started working remote. I mean, I was posting loads to my email. I'm like, I don't want to sit there on the phone all day. Or I'd actually, in the very beginning, I had no phone to even use other than my cell phone. I'm like, I'm not giving these drivers my cell phones because they'll be blowing me up all night. So no, I think in the beginning we did email, and I think that we didn't have that voice anymore. That was whenever that whole thing changed. So now you'll see loads are always posted to emails. And that takes that human out of it. So I totally agree.
So one thing I read the other day, so that $83 million cargo theft scheme that was uncovered in California, did you guys cover that?
Did we, like, I know the California Highway Patrol, my buddies over there they do Southern Cal, but their guys were actually in, I guess it's like the LA area. So it was a different department than the guys I know. But I did talk to them about that. I'm like, how did that work? How are you guys hunting them down? And they were telling me all their steps and stuff. But that webinar that I did with them, the California Highway Patrol, that you can find on my Care Portal's website, by the way. Anyways, you can in that they say like a lot of their tips and what they do, and like how they find these guys, and what we can do differently. But yeah, that whole scheme was wild.
Yeah. So you mentioned the California Highway Patrol. You are cooking up something special for the BCS in Orlando. Do you want to share it here?
So I'm bringing my favorite guys out there, the California Highway Patrol, the Cargo Theft Task Force. For sure, 1, maybe 2 officers coming with, so that way they can talk on stage. It'll be me and them kind of talking through really the webinar that I was just talking about, having them come on and really explain what they're dealing with, because I think there's a big disconnect between a broker or a carrier and and an officer, because we've all run into issues where someone's holding a load hostage, there's a load that's being stolen, and you're calling them begging for help, and they're like, we're not helping. So I think having a relationship with somebody like that and them explaining how it works for them on their job front, it will help you, even dealing with just like somebody who's not in a cargo theft task force, it will help you know how to handle like a local police department who has never dealt with it before. Because I think that's the biggest thing is training. So having those guys on is going to be great. I'm so excited for this.
I'm stoked. And it really underscores, I think, something special that we do at the BCS. If we do anything well, it's we connect people with the right other people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of events, a lot of conferences will have fantastic sessions. They'll have, great, lectures or panels
Right.
or whatever. But I think the quality of the people who come to the BCS when it comes to like boots on the ground operators, right? Like this is the best operator conference, I think, in logistics. And it's because of people like Danielle who say, hey, I know the guys over at the California Highway Patrol. We should have them on. And we bring them over. So
no, I totally
Very
agree.
cool.
And even because you have carriers and brokers there, so if there is a topic of discussion, there is like an expert that's sitting there on a panel. You're hearing it on all sides because I think the whole point of broker care is for them to have a relationship. But you get so stuck in your everyday world as a broker, and I mean, I remember dealing with carriers where they're mad about what like maybe taking too long to get loaded, and you're like, I'm not there, I'm sorry, and they're screaming at you, and you're like, and there's all this frustration. And I think the best thing about broker care summit is kind of you as a broker, mentality, I guess, or as a carrier mentality, you get to see like, okay, this is how they think and this is what's happening on the other side. I could be more relatable. I'm stepping in their shoes. I get it. So whenever I am dealing with a situation where a driver's mad about not getting loaded, I can have a little bit more empathy because I've met people who have had that experience and I know them personally.
Well, I think empathy is a word that gets overused a lot, but I'll tell you this. It's indispensable when it comes to being able to form partnerships, and especially in logistics, right? Everybody, it's a giant crap sandwich, and we're all feasting on it at the same time. So
everybody's got pain points, especially with fraud right now too. This being hit on all sides. So even having that relatable, like even like as a shipper or broker vetting a carrier, and carriers get really frustrated about having to do all these extra steps, but then having them understand really, because we're vetting you, you're vetting us at the same time. So I think that's, another thing with fraud related parts on that.
Absolutely. Well, Danielle, Fraud Girl, always a pleasure talking with you. How can people find out more about My Carrier Portal and Descartes?
Go to mycareportal.com, follow us on LinkedIn, or follow myself on LinkedIn. Lately, I feel like I've been posting a lot about fraud and all that stuff too. So hop on there and learn a lot. Our webinars are really great. Not going to kudos. I've been running all those, but we just did one on SOPs. We talked about that a second ago.
Danielle runs fantastic webinars, by the way. I will personally vouch for those.
Thank you. Yeah, I work really hard on them, but the SOP that we just did, breaking down a process so it is not just relying on tech and it's knowing exactly what to do. So just having information like that. So that's on our website, mycareportal.com. Go to resources and you can see all that there.
Very, very cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you sometime soon in the future. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll fly you in like one of those wingsuits, Fraud Girl, full sprinkler uniform.
Yes, I love that. Everybody's telling me I need to get a cape. I don't know.
You should definitely get a cape. Absolutely get a cape.
Oh my gosh.
One of the things we try and do really well is elevate brands and elevate people. You have a new podcast coming out very soon, do you not?
Yes, I do.
Tell me everything about your podcast.
It's called Tell Me Everything. And so, my podcast is just basically about meeting really great people in logistics and not really focusing so much on like product. And I think a lot of people want to do their spiel, but I want to know like the people behind the product, because I meet these people all day long at conferences and they're just amazing. And I think that their stories need to get out there and tell you everything. So I'm doing Tell Me Everything, which would be every other Tuesday. I'm thinking in 2 weeks is when that would be launching. And then every Friday, I'm doing Fraud Girl Friday. So you guys can hear some little fraud tips and stuff on there. So
fantastic. Well, tune in to Tell Me Everything along with the Freight Break. Most practically dense, valuable content you're going to find in the industry.
They're the best podcast.
The best podcast.
The best podcast, yeah.
All right, Danielle, always a pleasure talking with you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you soon, and take care.
Bye.
All right, that wraps up our show for today, everyone. Thank you very much again for joining us. And again, if you have not signed up yet for the Broker Carrier Summit, early bird pricing is still in effect through August 27th. Visit us at www.brokercarriersummit.com/events to sign up today. So until next time, everyone, take care.